reasonable solution to this problem. The application includes a number of alternative amendments to cure the deficiency. Any one of them would be satisfactory to Invenergy. We understand that the county raised some concerns in its review, which, and I believe, I haven't seen the county's recommendation letter, but may have made a specific recommendation about the amendment that it believes is most suitable. But any one of the four would solve the problem from Invenergy's perspective. The final thing I'd like to note is that if this application is granted and an amendment is made, we've structured the amendments so that the use would be a conditional use within the M1A zone. And so there would be a subsequent conditional use proceeding. All of the requirements for conditional uses that now exist in the ordinance would apply to that proceeding, including an extensive environmental assessment process and criteria that Invenergy would need to satisfy. And so many comments that we've heard in public proceedings with respect to this application otherwise have been directed at issues that would be the subject of a conditional use proceeding and the environmental assessment that is attached to that proceeding. Thank you for your time. We ask that you make a favorable recommendation to Borough Council to approve the application. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
My name is Mike Wida, and I'm kind of new to this commission. Hold on, Mike, hold on. Yep.
Look at what happened around. What a surprise. Open the window.
Mike, I'm wondering whether we should use it. Speaker, yes. I could be loud, actually. Okay. My question is, because I did not see the proposal right from the get-go, knowing that Jessup had only the M2 zone that was zoned for conditional use of a power plant, and knowing that we put places like a sports complex in the M2, and we put, some other businesses there, that you were knowing you weren't going to be able to have the size of the power plant you wanted. In the original screening of municipalities that would have, the zoning that you would require, knowing that M2 was only the acceptable zone, why did Invenergy pick Jessup to begin with?
Sure. Well, first, we believe the site that's been identified is quite suitable for the development, given its location, its separation from the borough with the highway, its proximity of natural gas transmission on the project site, its proximity to the electric transmission to take away the power. So there were a lot of the infrastructure needs for the project that were really quite ideal. But also, candidly, I think there was some initial confusion about what the zoning ordinance allows and whether this might fit under the large-scale heavy manufacturing use that is allowed as a permitted use in the ordinance. And it wasn't until closer examination of the provisions of the ordinance, when the project was a little farther down the line, that we concluded that was not appropriate and that we needed to fix that situation.
So if Jessup was to give you a variance for the 2,000-foot limit in the M2 zone, and let's say you could get a 70-foot high structure, what would be the maximum megawatt output of a plant that you could construct that you have a 70-foot height stack? I used to live next to, two 750 megawatt plants out in Montana that burn coal. You know, stack construction is based on, you know, the design of the entire output of your fuel. So what would be the maximum megawatt output you could probably do with a 70-foot height stack?
I'm not sure that we could do any, but I'd have to defer, you know, to experts in combustion technology and other issues. And Dan, if you can answer that, please go ahead. But I'm not aware that they could do that.
It's a spinning wheel kind of question. It's not easy to do without the.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors that go into the design of the plant and specifically the emissions. You have to model emissions. It's also site-specific, the topography in the local site. You know, the M2 zone is down in the valley, which makes the dispersion a little bit more difficult, so you probably have to have a higher stack there.
Oh, yeah, I'm not even suggesting the M2 zone. I mean, I look at the zoning map and I put a satellite image over it and I gotta look at past planning commissions and ask the question, what were they thinking? You know, to have a power plant next to where the inflatable sports dome used to be, in the same zone. Okay, obviously, and no offense to some letters we got today, but somebody feels proud of the zoning plan that we have here, but obviously, they didn't really think this one through. So, obviously, you're telling me that you wouldn't want it there, and we wouldn't want it there. I mean, nobody on the end of Grassy Island Avenue wants to have a stack, even if it was 70-footer, down the end of that. And I think there used to be a stack of some sort, some coaching plant that used to be out that way, and I can't remember the name of it, but, so you're basically saying that there wouldn't be any proposal at all.
Correct.
I got that for right now.
Other questions?
Anybody? Anyone?
Absolutely. You said you didn't have a chance to review the ordinance in detail. The four options, you haven't seen that?
No, in terms of the four alternatives?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I just wondered if you would speak a little bit to the power plant overlay district.
Certainly. That's one of the options that's included. I believe that option is included in the supplement that we filed to our application. So they were submitted in basically two sets of two. That's in the second set of two alternatives. And
Craig, if I may, I think we've been kind of referring to that as proposal number 3.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So proposal
The
number,
overlay proposal.
proposal number 3 would allow electric power generation within a portion of the M1A zone, but not within the entirety of the M1A zone. And ostensibly would keep that up on the opposite side of the Casey Island.
Thanks. So, for everybody's benefit, proposed ordinance number 3 that you're proposing would be the overlay, where you would say it's allowed in the M1A, but only on the east side of the Casey. In other words, the upper half, I'll say.
That's correct.
Proposed ordinance number 4 would be to include it as a conditional use in the entire M1A. And if I'm not mistaken, that's also the one that the Lackawanna County Regional Planning Commission has recommended to us. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Could you please address, Craig, proposals number 1 and 2, and just tell us a little bit about what each one is, if you don't mind. If I recall, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, if you have it right there.
Well, I do, and I think that, I mean, I have legally concerns with 1 and 2, that I would recommend almost throwing them right out because of some concerns that I have with spot zoning. And I think one of them, number one, was to take that, only that 79-acre parcel and designate it as change the zone, change it to an M2. So make that parcel an M2.
That's correct.
And that number, and then of course the other things, you know, remove the height restrictions, et cetera. I'm only gonna zero in on the meat and potatoes. Ordinance number 2 would do the same thing, but make it, we'll call it a new M1B mixed manufacturing / business park, where this use would be allowed. And is that essentially correct?
That's correct,
All right,
yes.
so, can you address, you and I have had discussions with, you know, on this one-on-one. I mean, can you address the whole spot zoning concern that I have?
Sure, sure. And that was a concern also raised by the county. It's not a concern that I share, but I'm not making the legislative decisions here, so, and there are other ways to solve the deficiencies in the ordinance. So I defer, of course, ultimately to Borough Council on how it might choose to do that. But with respect to the issue of spot zoning, it would be my view that the proposed change of the subject parcel to allow development of the project would not constitute spot zoning because the use is compatible with other uses that are already allowed in the surrounding district. Large-scale manufacturing, industrial manufacturing being, you know, one of them. So this is not a situation where council would be carving out a particular lot for a use inconsistent with the surrounding uses. The subject, you know, the project is consistent with the existing zoning that surrounds it already. So I'm less concerned by that issue than I think it may be. But as I said, there are alternate solutions to the defects that we've identified in the ordinance, and any one of them would be satisfactory from our perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. Maybe this, members have been provided with copies of, I have it here, oh, right here. Today, the borough received the written comments from Lackawanna County Regional Planning Commission that were issued as a result of their meeting last Thursday and vote. So all members have been provided with a copy of that. I would like to just run through them as briefly as I can. Because, you know, certainly this is something that you have available to consider. You have to consider, but it's available. So the staff concluded of the Lackawanna County Regional Planning Commission, number one, there are 2 M2 zone districts in the borough. Both are located in the western corner of the borough in the Mid-Valley Industrial Park area. The first is bordered by the borough of Oliphant and encompasses approximately 29 acres. However, it already contains or has immediately adjacent a number of developed parcels, including residences, first-class gymnastics, Schwann's, geosciences, and the Lackawanna County Public Works Department. The 2,000-foot regulation makes the zone district unavailable for a generation use station. 2, the second M2 area also adjoins Oliphant Borough and contains approximately 89 acres. It too has either immediately adjacent to or within its boundaries numerous uses including residential, air gas, Fabcor, Fastenal, MTF tissue, bank, etc. The 2,000-foot regulation makes the zone district unavailable for a generation use, station use. Number 3, while not specifically enumerated in the ordinance, the existing M1A zone district allows similar types such as public utility buildings, transformer stations, gas compressor stations, storage of gas, along with a broad category of industrial development and manufacture of products from raw materials. Number 4, the M2 zone districts are located close to residential development. The M1A zone is farther away from existing residential units and is buffered by the Robert P. Casey US 6 highway from the rest of the residential properties in the borough. Therefore, in conclusion, the staff agrees with the applicants that the zoning ordinance as written is exclusionary in regard to electric power generating plants serving a power system. And in order to remedy this exclusion and bring the ordinance in conformance with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, Act 247 as amended, and numerous state and federal court rulings, the LCRPC recommends that the Borough of Jessup amend the existing zoning ordinance in section 3.35 regarding M1A zone district to include electric power generating plants serving a power system, solar power generation farms, electric generation wind farms, and electric generation wind turbines as conditional uses in the M1A zone district.
Thank you.
Attorney Wilson, do you have anything else that you want to present? Or any other witnesses or comments or?
Well, since this is not a hearing, we won't present any witnesses,
Well,
but, I think
In support of your
Sure.
application.
I think,
You're
Dan
correct,
would
you
like
are
to-
correct.
Would like to say some closing thoughts here.
Sure.
Thank you. I would like to just add a few comments, maybe not from a legal perspective, but from Invenergy as a company. First of all, we'd like to thank the planning commission members for your attention to the matter. We've been in a number of meetings with you folks, and I know that it's been a process, and this is part of the process. We looked at these sites carefully when we first looked at sites. To your point, we felt this was the best site in the area. We still feel that way. We feel that the zoning ordinance was in retrospect a bit vague, and that's the reason we're here asking for this amendment. In the process, if granted, as Attorney Wilson pointed out, there'll be a conditional use process where we will submit a significantly greater amount of data than you've seen to date in our environmental analysis, and a variety of studies on things like noise, visual impact, a lot of different aspects of the project that in a principal permitted use might not have to be submitted. And I'd like to stress that we as a company are trying to be open and transparent. As many of you might have seen, yesterday we ran a test out in the field to help us with our visual impact study. We hired a consultant that put up some balloons yesterday, and I know there's probably been a lot of buzz about that. That's part of what we do in our process. It's a good way. It's the best way we know of to understand the visual impact of the project. And as a result of the test that were run yesterday, our consultant will put together visual impact photographs that will be much more accurate than what we've shown folks today. And so this is an example of one thing that we're doing to try to make sure that everybody fully understands the project, meaning the planning commission, meaning the council members, meaning the public. And we look forward to continuing that open and transparent process. And once again, I really would like to just thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.